everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is time for a new video, and today I'm going to be doing a reaction to my 5-star predictions that I did at the beginning of last year. So, I did 2 parts to the video. I read some books from the first and some books from the second, so it got to a point where it's quite a few books that I thought I should do the reaction, and probably later on in a few months I'm going to do a reaction to the rest of the books. Hopefully I'm going to finish all of them. And so I'm going to link those videos down below if you are interested in watching them, and let's jump straight into it. So, the first book that I have on here, I have it physically, but it's on my bookshelf in a spot that was really hard to take it out from. So that is Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I am pretty sure that I put the entire series on here, that I was like, I think all these books, back then it was the 3 books, now all the books are out. So I put all of the 3 books on there, and I was like, I think all of them are going to be 5 stars, because usually when I read series and I really love them, I kind of give 5 stars to all the books, because generally I don't really care about plot. I just care about characters, and if I love the characters, which in series it often happens that I'm completely in love with the characters, and so I don't really care what happens in the plot unless, you know, it's like super boring or something crazy happens. I haven't read the 2nd and 3rd book yet because I kind of want to. I need to still get the 4th book, and I also need someone to tell me and reassure me that I'm gonna survive. So anyways, the first book was a 5-star. I loved it so fucking much. It is definitely now on my list of all-time favorite books, and it was just absolutely everything. It is a YA fantasy. Honestly, it feels more like a new adult fantasy. It definitely feels more mature than your typical YA, and I don't think I'm gonna tell you what it's about because I went into this book not really knowing anything about it, and I'm really glad that I did that. I do tend to like to do that in general, but as always, all the books that I'm going to talk about are going to be linked down below if you do want to know more about the actual plot. But I fell in love with Laya and Elias immediately. I love them. I would die for them. This book was everything, and it was most absolutely completely a 5-star. It wasn't a question for a single second while I was reading it, and yes. So, the next book, oh my gosh, it's another one that I have physically, but my best friend has it. So, that is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This is another YA fantasy, and was this book 5 stars? Yes. It was. I loved it so fucking much. It is about a girl who grew up in a library, and she goes on this magical journey, and it's basically like, in this world, books kind of have like not a soul necessarily, but just they have magic, they have some kind of an existence, and I just loved the main character. I loved all the other main characters. There's basically like 3 main characters, and I love all of them so much. This book is a standalone, and it was just so good. Like, it was super fast-paced. It was super easy and quick to get through. It also has casual bisexual representation. We stan. And I just loved the romance. I loved the friendships. I loved everything about this. So I really recommend. And yes, as someone who has been struggling with fantasy, like especially last year, this book I feel like is perfect if you maybe are also struggling with fantasy, because again, it's just not overly complicated, but it's just a really fun, fast-paced read with amazing characters, so I absolutely recommend. That's definitely the case with Ember in the Ashes, though that one is more intense, like, yes. Okay. We're moving into a book that I finally have physically. I read it as an ebook, but I got it for Christmas in a physical copy, and that is The Midnight Lie by Mary Rutkowski. This is yet again a YA fantasy. What the fuck? Literally, I did put, from the most part, YA fantasy. It kind of actually makes sense, because I did this in March last year, and back then I wasn't reading as much romance as I am now. But it's funny because I keep talking about how I didn't really read a lot of fantasy, and here I am talking about all these books that are fantasy. But this book has a sapphic romance in it, and it is about Nerim, who basically is a part of this class where they can't really enjoy any luxuries. They can only have what is completely necessary, and so she lives in this town and she can't leave. She runs into this adventurer, and they go on a journey to uncover all the lies of the town. And it's just really unique, and I absolutely loved the romance in this, and I flew through this book. I loved how it was written. I loved everything about it. And so yes, it was a 5-star yet again. And I mean, I literally wanted the physical copy, even though I already read it, which definitely happens with quite a few books, but like it's rare for me to actually make the decision like I need to get this, even though I could just get a book that I haven't read instead. So I really loved this. I also need to show you the back of this cover. How cool is that? I'm obsessed. Okay, the next book that we have on here is a romance. Okay, and that is Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. Now, if you know me, if you have ever watched my videos, and you know, then you would know Talia Hibbert is one of my absolute favorite authors. Was this book a 5-star? I wonder. Yes, this book was absolutely most certainly a 5-star, and it was actually another book that I read in an ebook and had to have the physical copy. It's floppy. I have the first book. I definitely want to get the third book physically and then read it, especially because it's the last book in the series, and I adore this book. It's an adult romance. It's about Dani and Zephyr, and they basically are kind of friends, and so it's friends to lovers. There's fake dating in this, and it's absolutely everything. Like, Zephyr is such an incredible hero, and Dani is an iconic heroine, and I just love the two of them so fucking much. Like, Talia does romance like no one else, and she's my queen, and I adore this, and I need the third book now. So yes, it was never a question that this would be a 5-star. So, okay. Then we have Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. And this book is a YA paranormal romance about Julian and Yadriel. Yadriel is a trans boy, and he wants to prove to his family that he's a brujo, and so he wants to summon this ghost, and he ends up summoning Julian, and they go on a magical journey together, and this book is such a fucking roller coaster. It was absolutely incredible, and it was indeed a 5-star. Not all the books are 5 stars in this video. I'm just, yes, but I loved this so much, and I don't even know how to express how much I loved it. I actually vlogged about it, so I'm going to link that down below if you're interested in seeing that. I vlogged about quite a few books that are on here, because I vlog about almost everything that I read. So yes, this book is incredible. If you haven't read it yet, you need to get on it. Yes. And then the last book from the first video is 10 Things I Hate About Pinkie by Sandhya Menon. I was lucky enough to get an e-arc of this, and it was the first arc that I ever got, so it's so special because of that, and also because I loved it and it was a 5-star. So I did an absolutely amazing job in coming up with the predictions in the first part. And I really actually, like I said it in that video, that I tried to really pick only books that I was sure about, that I had a super strong feeling about, that they would be 5 stars. And I feel like sometimes, like, my intuition when it comes to that is usually spot on. In the second video, I didn't do the best job, but you'll see in a second. But 10 Things I Hate About Pinkie is a YA contemporary romance. It's the last book in the Dimpleverse series by Sandhya Menon, and it's everything. So in this book, there's fake dating, and Pinkie basically invites Samir to come to her family's lake house and pretend to date her, because she is a very rebellious, independent girl, and she wants to do her own thing, and her parents keep telling her that she's like not responsible enough and she's immature, and Samir is really mature and like put together, and he wants to be a lawyer and all that kind of stuff, and so she's like, if I'm dating him, they're gonna see that, yes. And so they fake date, and it's absolutely everything. Like, I loved this book so much. It also got really messy, and it was just so realistic, and I absolutely adored it. And it was also like, Sandia's books are also always filled with like so much sunshine and light, and they just make me feel so happy. And so loved this book so much, and yes, that was most definitely a 5-star. Also, I'm looking down at my laptop. I didn't like say that. I feel like it's kind of obvious, but just wanted to let you know. And yes, so we're moving into part 2, which there is still quite a few 5 stars, but we're actually going to get into some of the books that I didn't love so much. So the first 2 books that I had on here were Defy Me and Imagine Me by Tahar Mafi. So yes, they're not the same size. That is the joy of being an international reader. You never know what you're gonna get. But were these books 5 stars? Yes. These books are now some of my absolute all-time favorites, and it was the most pleasant surprise ever. Now, obviously, I had it in my 5-star predictions, so like it wasn't exactly like a surprise, but like when I read Restore Me, that is the 4th book in the series, I had that book for like 2 years. And I kept thinking, I don't know if I want to read it, and I almost wanted to unhaul it. But I'm so fucking grateful that I didn't do that I just sat down and read that book. Because thanks to that, I could read these 2, and I absolutely adored them. I can't even explain it to you, like, yes. Also, this, in case you didn't know, this is the 5th and 6th books in the Shatter Me series, and it was supposed to be a trilogy, but they kind of ended up adding 3 additional books. And so I didn't fully love, like, I enjoyed the first 3 books. It was definitely like super quick to get through and fast paced. I liked the characters. It was just that kind of like typical 2014-13 YA series. So that was just like addicting, but it also had quite a few annoying things in it, like a love triangle. But in the additional trilogy, the romance is already established, and I love it so much. I can't tell you anything about it. I don't want to spoil anything, obviously, but it gives me life. And so there's no more love triangle, and it just feels so much more mature, and there's so many like themes and things that are dealt with that I loved so much. And I love the main characters. I love all the side characters. I love everything about this. Like, I hate dystopia, but this is just still absolutely everything. Like, I can't even tell you how much I love this. And reading these 2 books really settled the fact that Tahar Mafi is one of my absolute favorite authors, which makes me so happy. So, yes. Okay, we are moving into The Kingdom of Back by Mary Lou. Oh my gosh, this was also a 5-star. Like, not all the books are 5 stars, but I'm really proud of myself for doing a good job in mostly actually being right. So that's cool. But it's true that I still, haven't read quite a few of the books, and I'm terrible at sticking to TBRs. So we're gonna see how well I did with all the rest. But The Kingdom of Back follows the story of Nanarl, who is Mozart's sister, and it's about her and their childhood, and being a girl in that age, being a pianist next to her brother. And there's also a magical world that slowly unravels. And this book is so unique and so impactful and so beautiful, and I loved it so much. The cover is stunning. It's so good. And I read this for a vlog that I have no idea when this is going up. But if the vlog is up, I'm gonna link it down below, and I'm really proud of myself for finally finishing it, because I read that book in March of last year. So yes. Anyways, I loved it so much, and I feel like not enough people have read it, so definitely go pick it up. It's so good. And yes. Then, what is the next book? Okay, the next book is The Henna Wars by Adiba Igardar. And was this book 5 stars? This book actually was not, but I did still love it. So I gave it 4 stars. I didn't review it, and I had a feeling that I gave this book 4.5, but not completely sure. So yes, but I did really love this book. It's a YA contemporary romance about Nishat and Flavia, and the two of them have a rivals to lovers romance. Nishat, our main character, she is a lesbian Muslim girl, and she comes out to her family, like, I think in the first chapter, and so it deals with that, and it deals with just, you know, like, it's a lot also like a coming of age story of a young girl in high school, and the romance is just so fun, and I just had such a great time reading this book. I flew through it. I also actually vlogged about this and about Pinkie. That was in the same vlog, so I'm gonna link that down below. Along with The Midnight Lie, actually. I read a lot of these books in there, so definitely check that out if you are interested, but yeah, so I feel like in that vlog, I didn't really fully get into the things that I didn't love about it, but the main things I feel like that I didn't love about it was like the 80% mark of the book, like, not the ending, but like, you know, a part before the ending, before the middle and the ending, because I just felt like there were some things that I just didn't love that happened in the plot, because, like, I mean, it did get, you know, messy and things like that, because, like, that is honestly realistic, obviously, but sometimes as a reader, you know, the conflict might sometimes be a little bit too much and things like that, so I didn't fully love that, but, like, overall, I loved this book so much. I really recommend it, and I feel like it's also a book that I'm probably going to get back to and reread, you know, at some point. So I did really enjoy it. Then we have another physical book, and that is The Gilded Wolves by Roshni Chakshi. This was a 5-star, and I'm so happy, but I'm also heartbroken because this book broke my heart, and I like to be in denial and not talk about that, not think about it. But anyways, this book is a historical fantasy set in France, in Paris, I think, and yes, it's in Paris, and it's about a group of characters who all join and go on like this heist. And it's really diverse. There are characters of color, and there are queer characters. There's a character who is coded as autistic, and it's just so fucking great. It is also queer found family, which there's nothing better than that. And it is just absolutely everything. I loved all the main characters. I loved the story. I loved everything about it. I flew through it. It was amazing. If it didn't break my heart, it would be perfect. So loved that book. Okay, we are moving into a book that I didn't love, and I haven't finished yet, but I still wanted to include it in here because I feel like my thoughts are probably not going to change. And yes, so that is Star Daughter by Shweta Thakrar. I was super excited about this. I mean, the cover is absolutely gorgeous, and it just sounded so good. But I feel like one of the issues with this book also is that, like, the way that it's been marketed was not ideal, and also the cover is kind of, it fools you a lot. So this book is a YA contemporary fantasy. I don't know if that's the, like, correct name of it, but it is set in our world. It starts in our world, and then the main character goes on a journey to the stars. So, like, it's set there as well, but it's also set a lot in our world, and so that is something that I did not know about. And I love contemporary fantasy books, or like paranormal, you know, books, urban fantasy, whatever. Like, I love these books, but I feel like just when I want a fantasy, like when I go into a book thinking it's a fantasy book set in a fantasy world, it just changes the expectations so much that I was really surprised, and I was like, wait, this is not the book that I thought it was. And so that's not the fault of the book, but it's the fault of the way that it's talked about, which I feel like is just unfortunately happens sometimes. And so definitely go into this book knowing that, and I feel like that's definitely going to make it better. And another issue that I unfortunately have with this book is the pacing. Like, I read a half of it, and I just felt like there were moments when I just didn't really care that much, and I just feel like it was a little bit boring. And I hate to say that, like, I don't like when I don't like books. It doesn't happen that often, but I obviously, just, it happens. And I'm not saying this book is a bad book. I definitely can see that there are some really beautiful parts of it that are magical and amazing, and I think that even, like, if I read on, there are going to be some really important messages in this, and so it has so much potential, which is why I'm so looking forward to anything that the author writes in the future. But there are just some things that didn't fully work for me, and I mean, this is a debut novel, so just, sometimes they have a lot of flaws. Next book, we have Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I read that for the same video that I read The Kingdom of Back, so I really hope that when you're watching this, that's going to be out. But I really liked this. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, so it was not a 5-star, but it was definitely very close. And I just had such a great time with it. I listened to the audiobook. I read it in one day, almost in like one sitting, and it's basically a rivals to lovers romance, and it's about our two main characters who have been rivals for years in high school. They're constantly, trying to outdo each other, and now they actually have to team up, which, like, the rivals to lovers, when they have to team up, is the best thing ever. And it was just really great. I had such a great time with it, and it's set in like 2 days, but it's like that is done so well, and everything, is believable. It's excellent. And the two main characters are also Jewish, so if you're looking for that representation, definitely check this book out as well. We are moving into You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. So this book was a 5-star. It's an adult romance, and I kind of didn't love the first half of the book, but I absolutely adored the second half of the book. A few times I was kind of questioning myself. I was like, am I sure that this is a 5-star? But I just had the feeling of like, I want to give it 5 stars. Even though, the journey was a little bit rocky at the beginning and everything, I just loved the two main characters. It was just such a wonderful rom-com, and I really love books about like established couples who are having issues. I just think that that's so fun and really important as well, and so I just loved this book and I really recommend. Then we have Queen Move by Kennedy Ryan. Was this book a 5-star? Absolutely. It was my top 2 on the second spot of my top 20 romance books of 2020. So I absolutely adored the fuck out of this book. Definitely one of my all-time favorite books. And this book is Childhood Best Friends to Lovers. It is absolutely incredible. It is so emotional. It is absolutely everything. And I don't think I want to tell you more about the synopsis. It's just, this book made me feel so many emotions. I flew through it. I cannot describe to you how much I love the two main characters and how much this book just, it owns my heart. I adore it. I need to get a physical copy of it so I can reread it. And since then I still haven't read any other Kennedy Ryan books, so I really fucking need to get to that. But it was everything. Absolutely recommend. And yes, we are moving closer to the end, but actually, oh my gosh, the last 7 books on that list, I read all of them. Wow. There's not 7. I mean, I've already talked about 3 of them, but I'm impressed. Okay, so Ironheart by Nina Varela. This is a YA fantasy that has a sapphic romance in it, and it is the last book in the duology. The first is Crier's War, and it was a 5-star. I absolutely loved it. I read it in a vlog that was for the Royal Readathon, so I'm going to link that down below. Again, I actually read the Gilded Wolves there as well, and so I adored this book. I loved it even more than Crier's War, which I don't know if it was a 5-star or 4.5, but like, this book was absolutely a 5-star. I can't really tell you much about it, but because it's the second book, but I just love the two main characters. I loved how the romance happened and everything. It was just everything. Then we have Trade Me by Courtney Milan. This is an adult romance that is about a hero who is a billionaire and a heroine who is poor, and she's, trying to make ends meet and help her family, and the two of them end up switching places. It's also, actually, I don't know if I said it's an adult romance, it's a new adult romance, and it was a 5-star. I love Courtney Milan so much. Her romances give me life. They're just the perfect combination of like romantic and fun and emotional and meaningful and steamy and absolutely everything that I love in a romance. So I adore this book. Yes. Then we have, okay, a physical book again, and that is How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. And was this a 5-star? No. This is actually a 3-star, but it was a 3-star that's like, I really enjoyed this, I'm glad I read this, but like, yeah. So I don't actually know why I have this book in here, because like, when I was getting the book and like when I was thinking about it closer to the release, I was like, I don't think it's gonna be a 5-star, but I'm still excited to read it, because this is basically like a collection of short stories that are connected to Folk of the Air series, which you might know as Cruel Prince. And so I feel like just anthologies, or like the books that are like connected to a series that are short stories, I feel like they're never great. They're always like, there's always just some stories that are like not that great in it. So I didn't have high expectations for this, and it wasn't everything that I wanted it to be, but I'm just really glad that we got more from Carden's point of view. There was some iconic content in this. I loved the last line, and it was great. I flew through this. I read it in like 1 hour. The illustrations in it are breathtaking, and so I'm really happy I read this. I'm happy I have it. It was a 3-star, but it was really great, and it was like, it did what I wanted it to do. So, and now we're finally moving into the last book I've been talking for so fucking long, and that is The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. Was this book a 5-star? Absolutely. Again, this is another book that has joined my all-time favorites list. I was going to reread this as my last book for the year, and I kind of ended up not having enough time for it, but it says a lot. I was going to reread it in the same year that I read it, and just so you know, I almost never reread books. It's really hard for me because I'm always like, there are so many new books that I should be reading instead, but I adored this. This is another YA standalone fantasy. It is not enemies to lovers. I feel like that's what a lot of people expect. It is almost like friends to lovers. This book was just absolutely incredible. I loved everything about this. I loved how it was focused on the romance, and I didn't say the synopsis. So it's about Alessandra, who wants to go to this palace and marry the king so that she can kill him and become the queen. Let's just say her plan doesn't exactly work out. And it's just so fast-paced. I inhaled this book. I loved the two main characters so fucking much. Like, I just had so much fun with this book. I loved every second of it, and I really needed to reread it, and I adored this. So I also need to show you the naked cover, even though I really need to shut up because I'm running out of space. Okay, I don't know if you... Yeah, okay, you can see a little bit. The rose on it is so pretty, and this is so pretty. I can't. So I'm so fucking happy that I loved this book as much as I expected to love it. I'm so happy that it's the one that wraps up this video. And you all need to read it. Just don't expect this to be a villain story, because it's not. Yes, the characters are morally gray, they do questionable things, but they're really soft deep down, which, again, like I've mentioned before, is my favorite kind of characters. I'm a sucker for that shit, and I love the two of them so much. Yes. So I'm finally gonna shut the fuck up. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, leave... You know what, I'm just going to make it simple. I'm going to say leave the black heart down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me what was your last 5-star book that you read. And that's going to be it. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm going to see you soon in another video. Bye!